The day I said yes to Ava, I flash-traveled 7 years into our marriage. I opened my eyes to a crumpled divorce agreement in my hand, and our son was looking at me, sighing. Every time you see Uncle Ethan, you threaten to divorce Mom. You don't even have the guts to do it. Dad, can you please just stop? I stared hard at him, but I didn't argue this time. I just calmly started packing. The day I left, Ava held back our crying son. Just behave. Your father will be back in less than 3 days. He's pulled this stunt a dozen times. Where's he gonna go? But no one expected that countless 3 days would pass, and I would never set foot in that house again. Later, a 19-year-old Ava would ask me, her eyes red, "Why are you backing out? You promised. Please don't leave me." I had agreed to be with Ava on a summer afternoon. The sunlight was so thick it made the cicadas chirping feel sticky, and the school hallway was a sea of noisy students. Ava ran back and forth 3 times, the hem of her white t-shirt fluttering in the breeze. The last time, she turned to run for the stairs, took 2 steps, then rushed back. Her eyes were bright as stars, her voice tight with nervousness. "Don't you dare back out. I'll come get you first thing in the morning." From high school through college, everyone knew how much Ava liked me, because I'd once said I'd think about it. Ava, a rich girl who'd never cared about school, buckled down and studied like crazy. She clawed her way up from the bottom of the class, just barely scraping by to get into the same university as me. Her affection was always bold, but never pushy. Even after we were at the same school, she never pressured me. The most she did was follow me around like a little shadow, a tactic to ward off any other admirers. If anyone asked, she'd just laugh. "Can't you see? I'm just taking a number and waiting in line." "You? Waiting in line? Get outta here. Don't you know it's first come, first served? I've been chasing him since high school. You think you can cut in line? In your dreams." After Ava left, I touched my burning earlobe, my mind filled with the image of her vibrant face. When I woke up the next day, Ava wasn't there to pick me up. Blinding light streamed through the curtains. I instinctively squinted, then suddenly realized this wasn't the rock-hard mattress from my dorm room. I looked around, my heart clenching. I glanced up at the crystal chandelier, then down at the plush carpet, where even the direction of the fibers seemed exquisitely deliberate. Where was I? The next second, the heavy bedroom door opened with the pitter-patter of footsteps. I looked up to see a little boy, about 4 or 5 years old, walking toward me with a displeased frown. He called out, "Dad." Seeing his face, I froze. He was a spitting image of me. I glanced at the calendar on the desk. 2025. Did I go to sleep and wake up years in the future? I looked back at the child. His eyebrows, eyes, nose, and mouth, every feature looked just like mine. I studied his face, completely fascinated. An image of 19-year-old Ava suddenly flashed through my mind. The girl who had confessed to me just yesterday, her ears bright red. I just wondered, after all these years, was Ava the one I married? I scanned the room again. There wasn't a single trace of a mother's presence. Not even one wedding photo. I carefully knelt down and looked at the boy. "Hey buddy, what's your name?" Kids are easy to get information from. He answered right away. "My name is Alex. What are you up to now?" He really was her son. I felt a wave of relief, but also a pang of discomfort. Is that any way to talk to your father? The kid seemed spoiled rotten. But looking at that face, which was 90% a copy of my own, my heart melted into a puddle, and I couldn't bring myself to say a single word of reprimand. While I was still lost in a daze, Alex suddenly snatched a crumpled piece of paper from the bedside table. He obviously couldn't read, but he was strangely familiar with this paper. "Dad, here you go again." He looked up at me, his little face full of disapproval. "Every time you see Uncle Ethan, you pull out this paper and fight with Mom. Uncle Ethan already said that even if he brings his and Aunt Shelley's kid over, it won't bother us, but you still almost pushed him over." As he spoke, he suddenly shoved me. "This is for Uncle Ethan." The boy was surprisingly strong, and the push knocked me back onto the edge of the bed. At the same time, his words tumbled into my mind like rolling stones, grinding painfully against my consciousness. My eyes fell on the paper. The words divorce agreement were big, bold, and searing. In the next instant, those words morphed into streaks of blood-red light and shot straight into my head. Suddenly, a flood of unfamiliar, painful, and resentful memories, the memories of the future Leo, poured into my mind. The final scene in that memory was the mocking, triumphant face of a man. It was the uncle Ethan Alex had mentioned, Ava's lover, the celebrity Ethan Grant. The pain that came with the memories was like a fine net, squeezing my chest so tightly I could barely breathe. I almost collapsed, sinking to my knees beside the bed. Alex glanced at me, a flicker of concern in his eyes that vanished as quickly as it appeared. He let out a small huff. It was today. Ethan had shown up at our door, bold and brazen, here to provoke and show off. And the person who had opened the door for him, the person who had welcomed him in with joy, was Alex. The older Leo had been in the kitchen preparing a snack for his son when he heard the faint sounds of conversation and came out. The first thing he saw was Ethan, dressed in head-to-toe Dior with a designer watch on his wrist, taking off his sunglasses and surveying the villa as if he were the man of the house. Leo couldn't understand. Ava had promised him she had gotten rid of Ethan. Why would he dare to show his face again? But he didn't want to ask. With a cold expression, he told him to get out. But Alex rushed forward and stood in front of Ethan protectively. "Uncle Ethan is a guest I invited." "Dad, you're being so rude." Leo was trembling with rage, but he never imagined that something even more sickening was about to happen. Ethan said that he and his ex-girlfriend, Shelley, had a child who was already 3 years old. Just 5 months ago, Ava had sworn to him that she would cut off all of Ethan's resources and never see him again. The color drained from Leo's face. He kept pulling at Alex, trying to get him to go back inside. He was terrified of his son hearing that his mother was involved with another man's family. But Alex just looked up at the man and said, "When my little brother gets here, I'll play with him. Don't worry, Uncle Ethan. Mom and I will both love him." Leo couldn't believe it. The child he had poured his heart and soul into raising had taken his mother's side against him, and then looked at him calmly and said, "You're acting like a psycho." In the memory, Leo and Ava had decided to have a child in their 3rd year of marriage. By then, Ava's company had gone public, and her career was stable. After their son was born, Leo, trusting Ava's promises, stepped down from the company to be a full-time stay-at-home dad. He had devoted almost everything to this child, only to be met with utter contempt. Ethan would secretly take Alex out for fun, let him eat junk food, and give him whatever he wanted. Alex would tell anyone who would listen that his mom was a big star, not some country bumpkin. Leo disliked relying on others. Even with countless nannies in the house, he did everything himself. To take care of his son, Leo shed all his former refinement. He wore whatever was comfortable, stopped styling his once meticulous hair, and lost all his former flair. Compared to the ever-stylish Ethan on screen and in magazines, he was painfully plain and dull. Ethan's arrival completely shattered Leo's carefully constructed illusion of a peaceful, happy life. He had provoked him more than once. At first, it was an accidental glimpse of Ava on his social media. Later, he even called Leo late at night to challenge him. "You should know about me and Ava by now. She likes that I'm young and handsome. Says I remind her of how you used to be. It's normal for an old guy like you to lose his woman." He had gotten with Ava at 19 now. 2 years later, he was only 21, weaponizing his youth and good looks. But at that time, Ava found out about the call. She had coldly blacklisted him for 2 months. So this time he had come secretly without telling Ava. He pulled out a photo of his child on his phone, still gloating. "So pathetic. She lied and told you she was going to blacklist me. But behind your back, she was secretly compensating me with resources. Oh, by the way, that new luxury condo development uptown, the one you couldn't get on the list for? Ava had the developer give me a unit directly. Said it was for me and my kid. He was a mess when he left, but he didn't forget to tell Alex not to mention what happened today to Ava." Alex puffed out his chest and promised he would keep it a secret. As for Leo, Ethan wasn't worried he'd say anything. In the 2 years he'd been entangled with Ava, Ethan had come to understand Leo better than anyone. He was stubborn and proud. When it came to the men around Ava, he had long become numb, like a pool of stagnant water. Ethan's plan was to use the child to provoke Leo's rage. Apparently, it worked. Otherwise, it wouldn't be the 19-year-old Leo waking up here. Although the memories of 31-year-old Leo flooded my mind, my soul was still that of my 19-year-old self. I hadn't personally lived through those years of thankless devotion. So the fury was slightly blunted, but the bitterness was etched on my face, which must have looked terrifying. I grabbed Alex's small wrist and asked sharply, "Alex, who taught you to speak to your father like that?" 31-year-old Leo would never have dared to scold him. He would only blame himself for not being good enough. By the end of the story, he had long since stopped looking for external answers and turned inward. He blamed himself for everything, convinced that his wife's affair and his son's hostility were his own fault. Alex had probably never seen this side of his father. No matter how out of control or angry his dad had been in the past, he had always been gentle with him. He trembled, frightened, and his eyes immediately turned red. The next second, he bit down hard on the back of my hand. I yelped in pain and let go. He started crying and screaming, "I hate you. You're a psycho. You're not my dad. I don't want you to be my dad." Alex had said things like this before, but in the memories, Leo's first reaction was always fear. He would immediately hug him and apologize through sobs.
"I'm sorry, sweetie.
Daddy's not good enough. Please don't hate Daddy, okay?" But I just watched him coldly. "What makes you think I'm so eager to be your dad?" He froze at my words, his fingers digging into the corner of the bed. But his past experience of fighting with his father had made him fearless. He stuck his neck out like a little rooster determined to win a fight. The words that came out weren't an apology but another attempt to push his father into the abyss. Alex's face was flushed, tears clinging to the corners of his eyes as he glared at me. "You're just a coward. You only threaten divorce to get Mom's attention. You don't actually have the guts to do it." Even though my soul didn't care, a wave of pain surged through my body. Just then, a cold voice came from the bedroom doorway. "Alex, who taught you to talk like that?" I looked up and met the eyes of the woman leaning against the doorframe. Compared to her youthful high school self and her fresh-faced college look, the Ava before me was much more mature. She must have just come from a business dinner. Her blouse was unbuttoned at the top, the sleeves rolled up to her forearms, and a jacket was draped over her wrist. Ava walked in and looked at Alex, her expression flat. "If I hear you say anything like that again, I'm taking away all your toys." Alex sniffled and clamped his mouth shut, not daring to say another word. Ava glanced at me, then at the divorce agreement on the floor. "And you? What's this about now?" Her eyes were weary, and she smelled faintly of alcohol. "You've been waving this thing around for 3 years. The paper's worn out. You could at least print a new copy. And I'll say what I always say." She paused, her voice hardening. "If you dare to divorce me, I'll make sure Alex's life is more miserable than anyone's." The image in my mind of the vibrant, lively Ava in her white t-shirt, the girl's hesitant heartbeat, her passionate and pure sincerity, seemed to blur and fade in an instant. All that was left was this unrecognizable, awful person in front of me. I stared at her for a long moment, then raised my hand and slapped her hard across the face. I didn't understand it. The 19-year-old Leo was brave and passionate, capable of loving and hating fiercely. Faced with betrayal, that Leo should have struck back hard and made a clean break. But the older Leo, upon discovering the betrayal, had only felt sadness and resentment, sinking deeper into a vortex of despair day after day, unable to even slap Ava. Thinking of this, I raised my left hand again, but Ava caught my wrist. "Enough!" Her face flushed with anger, but she quickly softened her expression. Her fingers slid up my wrist and clasped my hand tightly, so tightly it was as if she was afraid I'd pull away. "Don't scare the boy. We already agreed, didn't we? Let the past go. We'll have a good life from now on. Leo, you're the only one for me. That's never changed." Looking at her face, which was even more beautiful than before, I only felt disgust. I bent down, picked up the divorce agreement and said without looking up, "Get out. Both of you." Ava clenched her fists, watching my movements, but didn't budge. It was Alex who realized I was yelling at them and muttered under his breath, "Yell at me all you want. When you try to feed me later, I won't eat a single bite." Ava clicked her tongue and frowned at him. Alex fell silent, tugging at the hem of his shirt. She thought for a moment, then said, "You need to calm down." With that, she turned, placed a hand on Alex's head, and led him out of the room. Once outside the bedroom, Ava walked a few steps, then stopped and turned to her son. The boy looked so much like Leo, especially his eyes, clear, bright, and full of spirit. The first crack in her relationship with Leo had appeared when Alex was born. Back then, Leo had screamed and raged. She had been terrified he would reject the child, too. But then he started spending his nights watching the baby in the cradle, staring at Alex's face. And just like that, Ava had found his weak spot, the key to maintaining their illusion of peace. But today's Leo seemed different. He was still bare-faced and cold toward her, but there was a new finality in his coldness. She felt as if something was about to break through the dull, long-suppressed silence within him. Before she could think further, Alex tugged on her sleeve. He was still angry with his father, pouting unhappily. "Mom, can't Uncle Ethan be my dad? My dad doesn't like me, so I don't want to like him either." Ava narrowed her eyes and shot him a look. "Who the hell does he think he is? He's not worthy of being your father." Her patience for him, what little there was, ended there. And Alex, from the moment he could understand, had absorbed a core belief. Mom says I'm the chain that holds Dad here. As long as I'm around, he'll never leave. He knew what his mother liked to hear. Whenever his parents fought, if his dad still showed concern for him, his mom would pay him a little more attention. Alex looked at the closed bedroom door and declared, "It won't even be half an hour. Dad will be begging to read me a bedtime story." He pattered off to his own room and, mimicking his father, shut the door tight. "But I'm still a little mad. If Dad doesn't apologize, I'm not letting him read to me." Ava stood between the two closed doors, unfazed by this little drama between father and son. Half an hour? Given how much Leo cared about his son, he'd pull himself together and come out in less than 10 minutes. Ava sat on the sofa, one hand propping up her forehead, the other tapping restlessly on her leg. 10 minutes passed. 20 minutes. Half an hour. An hour. Inside the bedroom, I stared at the person in the full-length mirror. He was wearing outdated clothes. His hair was a limp mess, his face was pale and bare, and his large, bright eyes were completely lifeless. He looked like the living dead. My fingers touched the face in the mirror. I was speechless. How did I end up like this? I searched my mind, piecing together the fragments of the last 12 years. Before we even finished college, Ava's family had run into trouble. Refusing to be beaten, she started over from scratch with nothing but sheer grit. In 2007, when the stock market was in an unprecedented bull run, I took all my savings and went all in with her. We cashed out at the peak, multiplying our initial investment many times over. That money became the seed money for what would become Apex Group. In those early years of building the business, we supported each other. We faced scorn and cold shoulders from the outside world, but back in our little rental, we could still smile. In that sunless basement apartment, I would often stare at the tiny window. I'd hold an exhausted Ava in my arms, patting her gently and whispering, "We're going to make it out of here." Later, the small company grew bigger with more people, more money, and a house that felt emptier and emptier. Ava was only 27 when she was invited back to our alma mater for an alumni speaker series. She was young, sharp, and beautiful. During the QA session, a young man boldly asked, "Are you single, ma'am?" Ava smiled and held up her left hand, showing off the ring I had carefully chosen for her. "No, my husband and I have been married for 3 years." The young man held the microphone, ignoring the laughter in the room, and looked directly at her. "Who knows what the future holds? Plenty of married people get divorced." He bowed dramatically like a mischievous child. "No offense, ma'am. I'm just kidding." Ava's expression didn't change, but she finally gave him a real look. The boy sat down, his neck held high, satisfied. Neither of us took the incident seriously, at least I didn't. Later, I learned the boy's name was Ethan. By the time I found out, I had already stepped down from my management role at the company after Alex was born, and Ethan had gone from being an intern to Ava's personal assistant. The scene I walked in on was this. I opened her office door to find him with his arm casually draped over her shoulder. Ava was letting him, their posture intimate. The moment he saw me, he shot up in a panic. "Leo, what are you doing here?" I crossed my arms, a knot of pressure in my chest. "Get out." He glanced at the composed Ava, bit his lip, and walked out, but turned back to say, "There's nothing going on between me and Ava. Don't get the wrong idea." Ava stood up and calmly steadied me. "What are you doing at the office? Don't mind him. He's just a kid with too much time on his hands. It was nothing, but he makes it look like we were having an affair. We were just going over her schedule. He just has no sense of boundaries. I'll talk to him later." Her calm demeanor at that moment made me think I was being overly sensitive, and I actually felt ashamed. Until a month later, when I received a disgusting picture message. In the photo, Ava was leaning against Ethan just like she used to lean against me. When Ava found out later, she swore on her life and apologized, explaining over and over that there was nothing between her and Ethan. She fired Ethan and stayed by my side constantly, terrified I would do something drastic, even more terrified I would leave. During those sleepless nights, I would just lie there, my head turned, staring at the tiny figure in the cradle without blinking. If only this child didn't exist, how much better things would be. But who could have imagined that the child I would have sacrificed everything for years ago to ensure he grew up healthy and safe would one day become the blade turned against me? I looked at the person in the mirror, and the light slowly returned to my eyes. 31-year-old Leo was dead. He had too many attachments and too much resentment. So he called me here to save him from this hell. After cleaning up the mess in the room, I carefully combed my messy hair, making it look neat and sharp. I opened the door. The large living room was empty. I called over to Mr. Lee, the cook, and instructed him, "Make me some noodles."
I'm hungry.
He wiped his hands on his apron, looking hesitant. "So late. Are you sure you want me to start cooking now?" I turned and looked at him, my gaze cold. "Can you do it or not? If not, you don't have to come in tomorrow." He muttered under his breath, "The madam is the one who pays my salary, and she hasn't said anything about firing me." Sometimes, when you're speechless, all you can do is scoff. You think if I told Ava I wanted you gone, she wouldn't listen to me? If you really think I don't even have the power to make that small decision, feel free to test it. I didn't waste any more words on him. I walked to the dining table, sat down, and stared at him from across the room. Mr. Lee lowered his head and immediately went into the kitchen. A bowl of noodles doesn't take long. I was starving, but I ate slowly. Just then, the clock on the wall chimed softly. I glanced over and saw the hour hand pointing to 10. My mind flashed on something I seemed to have forgotten, and it took a moment to remember. Around this time every night, if Alex was still awake, I would read him a bedtime story. I kept my head down and didn't move, continuing to eat my noodles at a leisurely pace. A moment later, I heard a noise from the bedroom to my left. I looked up. Alex had opened his door and was standing there, watching me, holding a half-finished storybook. He fidgeted for a while before magnanimously saying, "Fine, I'm not mad at you anymore. I'll allow you to read me a story tonight, but you have to do it after you finish your noodles. Hurry up and eat or I'll get mad again." I glanced at him, then my eyes drifted back to my noodles. I didn't say a word, just left him standing there. Honestly, compared to 31-year-old Leo, I, who only had these memories of our father-son relationship, felt much more detached from Alex. Perhaps because he had never been treated this way before, Alex got genuinely angry. "Fine, don't read it. If you ever want to read to me again, I won't listen to a single word." With that, he slammed the door. My chopsticks paused for a second, but I still didn't move. Mr. Lee was wiping the table nearby, saying in a passive-aggressive tone, You shouldn't be so stubborn, sir. You're just fighting with the young master. You know you'll just end up begging for his attention later, so why bother? You'll just push him further away. Compared to the other maids and nannies who lived in the other buildings, Mr. Lee worked up close and had more opportunities to see my predicament. A cheating wife, a son who sided with outsiders, I was just the man of the house in name only. I picked up a napkin, wiped my mouth, and looked up at him. I made a decision. Before I left, I had to get rid of him first. Ava didn't seem to care about what happened tonight. She didn't even come home. She had her assistant leave a message, saying there was an urgent matter at the office. Perhaps Ava had given an order, because when I asked the assistant to handle Mr. Lee's dismissal, he was paid and sent on his way quickly. When I woke up the next day, Mr. Lee was gone. A new face greeted me eagerly. Sir, breakfast is ready. Will you be taking the young master to school? I've also prepared his lunch. Children have short memories. After a night's sleep, he had forgotten everything. He woke up and ran to me in his pajamas, hugging me. Daddy, I want to wear my blue clothes today. And for lunch, I want chicken legs, the ones with sesame seeds. In the past, I handled every little detail of Alex's life myself. Worried he wouldn't eat well at kindergarten, I got a nutritionist certification and personally made his lunch every day, driving it to his school and waiting for him to finish before driving back. I pushed him away gently. Let Robert get you changed, I said coolly. Once he was all ready, he paced back and forth by the front door with his backpack on, finally asking, Dad, aren't you taking me to kindergarten today? I didn't look up. No, the driver will take you. From now on, Anna will be the one taking you. He didn't understand what that meant. He just scratched his head and left in a huff. I didn't have much to pack. There were some things I couldn't even be bothered to take. So when I left the villa, I only had one suitcase and the divorce agreement. As I walked out, Robert chased after me. Sir, where are you going? Why do you have a suitcase? Will you be back for lunch? I can make your favorite dishes. I stopped, looked back at the house behind him, then turned and walked away. I won't be back. Don't prepare lunch for me. With my suitcase in tow, I quickly found an apartment downtown. The rent was $10,000 a month. I paid without blinking an eye. Compared to the vast fortune I now controlled, this amount, which would have taken me 3 years of work to earn in college, was nothing. I now had the soul of a 19-year-old with the life and experience of a 31-year-old. It would be a waste to squander it. I didn't know if I could ever go back to the past, but living well in the present for this Leo was the right thing to do. Looking back at my resume from the past years, any single achievement could crush countless people, yet I had willingly given it all up to be a stay-at-home husband and father. When I completely withdrew from managing the company, Ava had promised me over and over, I told you I'd give you a good life. From now on, let me handle the money-making. You can stay home, tend to the garden, read books. I'll come home from work and cook your favorite dishes. When we have kids, I'll take care of them after work. I won't let you lift a finger. Leo, you've given so much for me, for the company, for this family. I can't bear to see you worry about another thing. Thinking of this, I scoffed, then hit submit on my portfolio and resume. It was time to get back in the game. That evening, my phone suddenly rang. Sir, why didn't you come back? The young master has been throwing a tantrum for hours. He searched the whole villa for you and is now crying to the madam. He sent me a video filmed secretly. Alex would never dare to throw a real tantrum. He had always been afraid of Ava. In the video, he checked several rooms for me, and when he finally faced Ava, he just tugged on her sleeve and quietly asked where his dad was. Ava looked to be in an even worse mood. She stood with her hands on her hips, staring at my bedroom. After a long pause, she turned to him. What are you crying about? Your father will be back in a couple of days. Realizing her harsh tone had scared him, Ava pinched the bridge of her nose, knelt down and said patiently, The last time Daddy fought with Mommy and left with a suitcase, didn't he come back after one night? As long as you behave, he'll be home in a few days. You're not afraid he's going to fly away, are you? A thought seemed to strike her, and Ava laughed self-deprecatingly. Don't worry. Your dad would abandon me before he'd ever abandon you. Alex took her words to heart. and his face instantly lit up. At the end of the video, as he walked to his room, he was tapping on his kid's smartwatch. If Dad doesn't come back for a bit, that's fine. I'll just have to ask Uncle Ethan to read me stories. It's Dad's own fault for not coming back, so I have no choice but to ask Uncle Ethan. Besides, Uncle Ethan's voice is nicer than Dad's. I closed the video. Though my face in the reflection was expressionless, the pain in my heart felt like death by 1,000 cuts. The interview at Cortec went smoothly. The final round was with the CEO herself. As I walked into the office, I saw a little girl in a princess dress and pigtails unwrapping a piece of candy. When she saw me, she looked up, smiled sweetly, and offered me a piece. "Mister, have some candy." "Thank you." Just as I took it, the door was pushed open. I turned and quickly recognized a familiar face from my memories. "Ms. Ross?" I said, surprised. Because of Ava's career, I had spent years navigating various social circles, and I knew the private lives and preferences of these elites like the back of my hand. She was dressed in a sharp business suit, her long, curly auburn hair swept to one side. She extended her empty right hand, her red lips parting slightly. "Stop right there. We're divorced. Please call me Wendy." I caught on immediately and didn't press further. Of course, Wendy. I hadn't expected her to be the head of this company. She seemed pleased with my resume and portfolio, except for one thing. Forgive my bluntness, but my company is a world apart from Ava's. "Mr. Leo, why not work for her?" I was frank. "I'm also in the process of getting a divorce." She raised an eyebrow but didn't ask any more questions. The little girl tugged on my clothes again, smiling sweetly. "Mr." Wendy looked at her. "My daughter, Mia." I was surprised again. She had managed to win custody from her husband's family? Perhaps our similar experiences created a sense of camaraderie. When Wendy learned the reasons for my impending divorce, she generously recommended a lawyer. He's never lost a case. A top-tier divorce attorney. Just a bit pricey. She patted my shoulder encouragingly. "Don't worry. If you're short on cash, I can give you an advance on your salary." Over the next few days, Ava called once. When I answered, she was silent for a long time. Just as I was about to hang up, she stopped me. "Renting an apartment, looking for a job, Leo, you're used to being taken care of. Why are you making things so hard on yourself? I don't understand what you're so upset about. We already cleared the air about Ethan. Why are you still making an issue out of him? Whatever you want, just ask. You can even have my life." Cleared the air? That was laughable. Back then, Ava had fired Ethan. It wasn't until much later that I learned the video of him holding her was taken when he secretly snuck into her office. But even so, I still found traces of their connection on her phone. The CEO of a publicly traded company,